uh, MCC coach, mentor coach, director of their organizational coaching master of Leire University in Spain. Hello, Gorka.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Very nice to see you. We can see and hear you very good.
Okay, very nice to see you too. Nice to meet you, Maria. Hi, Dimitri. Good morning. Hi, everyone.
You want to share your screen with us?
Sure. Just give me one second.
Also want to ask you, Gorka, what is more comfortable, to read all the questions at the end? Or you will stop somewhere and I can read the questions we have?
Yeah, I think for me it's more comfortable if we can answer the questions as they are, asked. So it's easier because then it makes sense.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe the question is already, it doesn't make so much sense to answer it when it's not related to the theme we are talking about. So for me, it's easier if you agree and if everybody agrees to do it in the same
okay.
moment that the question is asked. All right, so good morning, everyone, and good morning from cold Spain. So today here it's really, really cold. We are going through a really, really, really cool wave. And yeah, today I'm here to talk to you about my experience with cross-cultural coaching. But I want to talk about it from the perspective of how cross-cultural coaching can help coaches to improve their coaching. I was lucky because since I was quite young, when I was 20, 21, I was able to travel to different places. Okay, I don't know. We have a question here or something, just...
Not yet, right now we don't have.
Okay, just 1 second, because, okay. But if I, can you see the presentation now?
Yeah, very clearly.
Okay, perfect. So, as I was saying, when I was quite young, I was lucky enough to be able to travel and to live for 3 years in Israel. So there I had the opportunity to meet many people from different countries. And of course, I had the opportunity also to be able to connect, to learn, and to also see how this really think. But also, I was able to meet people from the United States. I was able to meet people from Russia, from South America. So in an early age, I was able, and when you are 20, 21 is also an age that you're still working on your brain mindset and you're, making up your mind and how you see things. And so that for me was a really, mind-blowing opportunity and also mind-blowing experience, because it helped me to understand that there are many different ways in which people think, in which people see things, and also there are many ways in which we can, see the way we see life. Yeah, in that moment, I didn't know anything about coaching. I'm talking about maybe 20, 21, 22, 3 years ago. So it was like coaching was not in my life. So yeah, but I've been always a really, really curious person. So I was also working in some self-development techniques, and I began to see that things were not only the way I was seeing. So when Dimitri asked me to take part in this program, I was very happy because nowadays I've been coaching for almost 13 years. And coaching for me is, is part of my life. I think it's not a profession. It's not something I work in, but it is a way of life. So, and also when I entered the ICF and I began to study and to practice and to also research in all the core competencies, I realized that if we want and if we really want to be effective coaches, one of the first things we need to take in account is that we have to be able to, adapt to the way that our clients, our coaches think, learn, create. So it means that we as coaches need to forget about the way we see things, need to forget about what we think is right is wrong, or even the way that things should be done or solved, and we need to adapt to the other, person mindset or way they see things. So what can we say that it's a mindset? So because this talk is about mindset adaptation. So mindset for me is, we could say that is an established set of attitudes held by a person, which means that, okay, so it's the way that the person thinks, the way that the person sees things, the way that the person believes that things are done. Okay, so when we are talking about a mindset in coaching is the other people map for the world, how this person mind is structured, is established, and how these people uses this mind. Okay, and of course with cross-cultural coaching, what I realize is that every culture and every language have their own mindset. And I say every culture and every language because sometimes, for instance, here in Spain, we speak Spanish. And if you travel to South America or even Middle America, they also speak Spanish. But the language is different. The way they approach the language, the way they think, the way they see things is much more different than we see it here in Spain. Okay? So even if we think that the language could be the same, in the end, the culture is going to set up the rules and the conditions to be able to, to think and to adapt to this culture. So what I want to mean here is that if we have the opportunity, or we create opportunities to coach people from different places, from different cultures, or even from the same language from different cultures, we are going to learn a really, really, really useful lesson. And this lesson is that, as I said, people think in different ways, okay? And as I said also, as coaches, we need to be able to open our minds. The only way not to be a directive coach, when I mean directive, is that we tend to give solutions, we tend to condition the session, or we tend to give our solutions, is to be able to have a really flexible and a really, really open mind. And if we get used to coach people from our same country, from our same language, even though that people, they have different mindsets, but in the same country, we mostly have the same way of thinking, or at least our brains are structured in a very, very, very similar way. For instance, there is a big difference between the way that Spanish people here in Spain think and the way the North American people think. And this is something I found coaching people from the States and from Canada. And I think this something is related to the education they have, or the education they receive, or we receive here in Spain. For instance, when you ask a question here to a client, to a coachee, here in Spain, people take much longer to think and also to reflect, and they like to reflect sometimes in a really complicated way. They connect to many things, and sometimes they get lost, and it's kind of, I don't know if it's like an inheritance from the Socratic or the philosophic culture, to think too much, to really reflect in a really, really deep way. But what I realized is when I was coaching clients from the States, from the United States, or from, instance, Canada, their ways of thinking, they are much more straightforward. So you ask a question and they already have a really clear question. They don't go around, they don't complicate things. They just have like kind of really linear thinking that is really easy, to do coaching with them. So this is one of the big lessons that I began to learn with cross-cultural coaching. That is that, okay, so if I'm coaching people from different countries, I need to be aware that they're going to think in a different way, okay? So that means that I have also to have a different attitude as a coach, which means that I have to be really present, as we will talk later, with related with the core competencies in coaching, and also related to the active listening. It means that I have to be really attentive, not to judge or not to think that they're thinking in their own way, or that they're thinking in a way that it's easy, or maybe that the way that they're thinking is not the best way for coaching. Okay, so this is the first thing that we have to take in account. Mindset as a coach means no mindset in sessions. So it doesn't mean that I shouldn't be a person, or that I should forget my own way of thinking, but it means that I should be able to just put it aside, to suspend it for a while I'm coaching, and try to not get affected by the way I see things. Okay, so the message here is cross-cultural coaching can be a great opportunity to improve the way we coach, to increase our effectivity as coaches. Okay, and what do I mean by effectivity? So the freer as coaches we are from our ideas, the less we interfere with our clients' way of thinking, creative learning, and the more space we give them to be free and to be comfortable with the way they think and how they see things, the more effective is going to be the coaching, because the more creative and also the more space is going to have this person to be comfortable and to be also to trust the whole process. If we are coaching, for instance, someone from a different country, and we try to ask the questions in the same way we do usually, or the same way we do in the country we coach, or we try to structure the session in a way that suits the way we think, this is going to create like a kind of a stuck situation in the coaching session. Okay, so it's very important that we have this idea. Okay, so how can I be a coach with a much more open mind and with much more flexible coaching, which is also related to the presence competence? So one way is to get used to coach people from different places, from different countries, and also from different languages. For instance, I'm going to tell you now like a kind of example that I experienced last week when I was in Mexico coaching. Okay, Mexico, so it's a country where they speak Spanish, so apparently no problem, right? Well, so yeah, there is a big problem when you coach in Mexico. The big problem is that they used word in really different ways, okay? And when I mean different, it means really different. And also, they use words that here in Spain, for us, they are like, okay, this is wrong, you don't say it this way. But for them, it's like, okay, it's a daily basis language. So what I have to take in account when I'm coaching in Mexico, and also, for instance, I was team coaching last week there. So, for instance, I have to be really careful not to use some words. For instance, in Mexico, when you say the verb coger, which means to take, in Spanish it means I'm taking something, I'm taking the phone, I'm whatever, it's to take. But in Mexico, coger, it has a sexual connotation, a really strong one, okay? So, for instance, here in Spain is a word that we're using every 5 minutes. And yeah, I found out that the first times I was there, I was not aware of that, and I was using that word, and people were shocked. They were like, oh, why are you saying that? And I said, why I shouldn't say that, you know, because, and they explained me the real meaning of that word, and of that, I mean, so common word here in Spain, and I was shocked. So, for instance, this is something that when you're coaching in Mexico, you have to be really careful and really conscious and really present, not to use that word, and to be able to transform or to translate in other synonyms and things that have the same meaning. For instance, another example from Mexico. There is another word here that it's to make conscious yourself of something, and in Spanish is ser consciente, and in Mexican is concienciarse. Okay, concienciarse, it's a word that in Spanish doesn't exist. It's like you're not using the word in the right way, and this is wrong. So I found myself in a team coaching session, and I found that people were using that word. And, you know, as ICF says, okay, so you have to be able to adapt to the client's language. You have to be able to adapt to the way they think, to the way they express. So, you know, my mind was like, okay, this is not the right word. They shouldn't be saying that. This is not right. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so this is the way they use the language. This is the way they think. So I should adapt to this language. And there I was changing my way of speaking and saying something that for us here in Spain is completely wrong. It's like a misusing of the language. But anyway, in that time, I thought that for the sake of the coaching session, for the sake of the client's improvement and performance, it was much more useful to be able to adapt to the language. Of course, that means that we have to be, first of all, really aware of where we are. Also, really aware of our ways of thinking, and also be kind of free, flexible, and adaptable to how things are developing in the coaching session. And this is something that if we keep coaching people from our same country, is not going to happen, because we're going to use the same language, we're going to use the same traditions, we're going to use mostly the same ways of seeing things. And this is something that is not going to help us to really improve our way of coaching. And as I told you, understanding that a good coach is that one that is not attached to anything, that is not really, you know, being or wanting to be, you know, to have the reason or to be true with things, but just adapting continuously to the client's ideas and ways of thinking. So, as a big idea, our ability to coach improves as soon as we forget about our own mindset and dare to understand our coaches' ways of thinking. So being a good coach and also being effective, you know, and have a great quality as a coach is about us being able to forget about our own mindset, and also to have a mindset. So it's kind of contradictory, so I have to forget about the mindset, but I have also to install like a software in my mind which is adaptable, which is flexible, and which is going to help me to navigate, you know, through any situation, and which is going to also make me feel really comfortable in not being comfortable. Okay, for instance, when you coach people from Israel or from the Middle East, usually they are really straightforward. Okay, here in Spain, somehow we're kind of polite, and we want to say something. Well, maybe we will go there and then here, then there, and then we come back, and then maybe we say something, and then we put some flowers, and then so. It's like we like to adorn things. We're not so straightforward, but there is like they have no filters, okay? And it's something that is related to their culture, to, you know, their necessities, because they're always, you know, in a state of defensiveness. So in the end, people, they become really, I won't say rude. Maybe this is the first impression you have when you coach people from Israel, okay, that they're rude, but they're not rude. They're just straightforward, and they don't want to waste any time trying to you know, make things in a beautiful way and try to be too polite. And no, if they feel something, they just say it, and that's it. If you like it, it's okay, and if you don't, it's your problem. So this is something that also, for instance, helped me to learn to be much more secure as a coach, because, for instance, and this is related to the competence that we will see, you know, in a few minutes about direct communication. So if the client is telling you something really straightforward, and maybe something that is related with your performance or whatever, and if you're not ready, or if you're not open-minded, or if you're not sure or secure about yourself, it can be at some point difficult. It can, make you begin to think in a way that, oh, what he said, oh, whoa, oh, he's rude, and this is going to impact in your coaching quality. So, for instance, this is something also that you learn, not to take things personally. If you know that, this culture, they really are straightforward, and they really, talk in this way, and they just want to say things in the easy and straight way. So, cross-cultural coaching is an enrichment process. And I could say that it's something that every coach should try, and every coach should do in a daily basis, because it's going to help them to improve their coaching. So it's like, as I said, is a must. Okay, is something that also, for instance, when I coach in my coaching school, and also here in the university, is something that I really say my students to do. And also we have like kind of a collaboration and partnership program with one school from Mexico, because when they coach with people from different places, they suddenly see things in a different way. They see that maybe they were used to coach in a certain way here in Spain that was much more rational. And when they speak with the Mexican people, they get to be much more emotional, and they have to get used to that. So again, they have to open their minds, they have to forget everything they knew, and they have to learn to adapt to that situation. Okay. Maria, do we have any questions from now?
Not yet. Oh yeah, we have. From Evgeny, you told with foreigners you need to think in different ways, but you have own way for thinking. What helps you to think like your foreign client? Is it not just about meaning of words?
Okay, yeah, that's a good question. And actually, that's what I was trying to explain here, that what will help us to think as our foreigner or this cross-cultural client is this process of learning and being able to be really conscious, okay, of your inner conversation. Because when we see someone that it's speaking or thinking in a certain way that it's different from our own way, suddenly we get stuck in an inner conversation, like, oh, that's strange, oh, that shouldn't be this way, oh, this word is different. And this inner conversation, or as Timothy always say, this self-one, is going to keep us from good performance, because then we're going to lose the complete presence, we're going to lose the active listening, and we're going to lose all the ability to be linked to that person or to that team that we are coaching. So here the secret, or the recipe, or the way to be able to forget about the way we think is, first of all, consciousness. Okay, consciousness of this inner conversation that is going to rise in the very moment that we're experiencing this situation. And in the moment that we experience this inner conversation, that things are not in the same way I see them, or this word is not right, or maybe this word is different, just to be able to just turn it off and just put it in a really low volume, so you don't lost your presence, you don't lost your active listening. So the only way is, first of all, install in ourselves the belief that things can be seen in multiple ways. My way of thinking is not the right and is not the only one in the whole world. So I have to be willing, and I have also to be happy to learn and to see things in different ways. So it's a belief of okay, I'm not coaching, I'm learning. And this is something that ICF really remarks on the competencies. So, and especially when you're going to the PCC and the MCC level, is like, okay, coach should be a learner, not someone who teaches or someone who is a specialist in a field, but on the contrary, is someone which is willing to learn in a basis for everything that the client or the team is willing to teach us. So the idea is, okay, I'm becoming a learner. I don't know anything about anything, and I'm just willing to be, able to be free, to be even naive, and to be curious. So this is the best way to get to that point of, being able to think in the other ways that is not our own way.
Thanks a lot. And also the question from Nikolai, do you have to learn nonverbal cues of people from different cultures? If yes, how do you do that?
Well, that's a really, really, really important point, because nonverbal language also changes in countries. So this is something that is going to help us to understand what's going on, okay? For instance, if you go to South America, or you go to Mexico, they have different hand uses that can be really useful, because, for instance, in Mexico, they use this movement, and sometimes I was in the session and they say, and it was like, so what do you mean? Do you want me to come? It was, no, it's yes, it means yes. And it was like, okay, thank you. Okay, so because in Spain, we don't have it. We have this, which is no, but we don't have the yes, okay? For instance, in Israel, if you're coaching Israelis, they will say that. And this, well, here in Spain can mean, okay, this is tasty, and Italian it also means, it's really, really tasty. But in Israel means, wait. It's like, rega, wait a minute. And it was like, okay, so the first time it was, what do they mean that what I said is nice, that they like it? No, they're asking you to wait, okay? So yeah, nonverbal cues, they are really different. There are places where yes is said in a different way that we do it, and we may think that it's no. So also, if we know that we're going to coach someone, especially from the East, it's important to maybe get to internet, get to Google, and Google different nonverbal cues that will be useful to know, just not to, misunderstand or to make any mistake using some, maybe nonverbal language that could also offend that client. So yes, it's really important.
Thank you so much. And we also have a question from Sandra. Hola, Gorka. It's a pleasure to hear about your interesting experience. Spain is one of my favorite countries, and I speak a bit Castellano. I have a question. When you decided to start coach people, you speak another dialect or language, did you create a special strategy? For example, for Spanish people, you speak Catalan, Valenciano, and etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I speak Catalan because I live in Catalonia, where I live. Lleida, it's a part of this community, which is Catalonia. So I have to speak Catalan. So I think that also, and this is very important because I speak Spanish, English, Catalan, and also Hebrew in a fluent and written way. So I think that also really helped me to, open my mind in really different ways. For instance, I think, and all the humbleness, I don't want to show myself as a show up, but I think, for instance, that, and it's something that helped me a lot with coaching, I have a really, 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 good way in connecting things. So it's like for coaching, it's important that you help the client to relate, to connect, to see how things are related, and help them to, to see different ways. And being able to speak different languages, I think that also that structured my mind in that way, in a way of connection, in a way of openness, in a way of not fixing to things in a determined way. So yeah, I don't follow on a special strategy, but there is, my main strategy is just to adapt, okay, to know that things work in a different way. And of course, it's not that, for instance, of course, Spanish for me is the easiest way to coach because our mother tongue is the one that is going to come up in it really easily. But for instance, what I realized is that since I've been learning languages from an early age, I didn't have so much difficulty adapting to coaching in English or coaching in Hebrew or coaching in Catalan. So in the end, it's like I don't have to do any special effort to do it. Just try to be, calm. And yeah, there is one thing, and also one important strategy: not to think too much, because that's something that I realize sometimes when I want to coach in English, and then it's like, a day that you may be tired, and okay, now I have to make an effort. And how do you say that? And then you try to do it in the right way, and you go nuts, and it's awful. I mean, and then it's like you cannot speak. So it's really important also just to trust yourself. Trust in yourself is a main thing. So you don't have to think too much, and then you can be, fluent, and you flow, and then it's marvelous. So don't think too much.
Thank you so much. I think we can go on and then rate it.
Okay, we'll have more questions. Okay, so now I would like to talk how this mindset adaptation helps us to improve our competencies. And I'm not going to go through the 11 competencies because they may not be related, all of them, to this mindset adaptation through cross-cultural coaching. But I found 5 of them, which is the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 7th, which are really related to this mindset adaptation, or being able to adapt to the client's mindset, and can help us also to improve the way we coach. And the first one is the 2nd competencies, that's related to the coaching agreement. Okay. And we could say that is the 2nd and the 10th, because both of them are related to, helping the client to find what they want to achieve, and also, to develop like a coaching map or a coaching plan. Of course, for instance, here in Spain, we are kind of, let's say, a little bit chicken. It means that our culture is not a culture of daring and doing big things. We try to be really safe and secure, and we don't like to go out of our comfort zone. Now, for instance, what I realized with North American clients, and also with Israelis, and they are really bold. I mean, they dare to plan big goals, and they like to, they like to be great entrepreneurs and go for big things and think in a big way. And this is something that can be a little bit limiting if we're not really conscious. I mean that maybe, a client from New York, he can set a goal, to be able to raise $10 million. And for me, it's like, oh my God, this is impossible. I mean, you're nuts. I mean, it's like, you won't make it. But okay, this is their mindset. In North America, they like to play big. They like to set big goals. And I had to learn that maybe it's me, the one who is limiting myself. And I have to learn to just say, okay, maybe that for me means that it's difficult, it's impossible, and it's too big, but it's not me, the one who should be thinking that. So if the client says that they want to set that big goal, that they want to, reach that realm, and they want to go for it, so it's okay. I trust him, and I will go with him, and I will accompany him. Okay, so the first thing about cross-cultural coaching and goals is what maybe or maybe not useful and also possible in your country, maybe something that is a daily basis in other countries. So just be flexible with goals. Okay, don't get attached to what you think that is possible or not. Okay, so this is very important, because even you may be insulting that person if you even tell them that this is too difficult or this is too much. Okay, so the only thing is just help them to find if they have the resources or if this is realistic for them, but don't judge if what the client wants to get is possible or is not possible. So this is the first one. Okay, so helping our clients, our coaches to develop goals, but don't limit the clients with our mindset or with our culture. This is very important. Okay, and as I said, this is related to competence 2 and to competence 10. So then the third, which is trust and intimacy. Okay, so this is a competence that usually we think and we relate to being able to create, conditions and a climb of trust and intimacy with our client to make them feel comfortable. Okay, and this is important, and this is what we talked before. We have to learn what's allowed, what's not allowed, in a verbal and non-verbal way with our clients, because if we don't know really how to use the language in that culture, or if we don't know how we should express in our non-verbal and or verbal ways, we can create situations that they're going to, we could say that they're going to stop, or they're going to reduce the trust and the intimacy of the session. But also, trust is not only related to the client trusting us, but is also related to us trusting the clients, which is related to what I said before of, okay, so my way of thinking is not the right one, or it is not the only right one. There are many others, so I have to trust that the way that person learns things and creates is the best for them. Okay, so I have to be able to adapt it. But also trust is related to me as a coach, to trust myself. And sometimes when we're not used to coach different ways of thinking, of learning, we can get to a point of doubt or fear about the session. So it means that we also, the more we coach in a different language or a different culture, also the more we trust in ourselves and in our coaching, and we learn to be much more comfortable and calm and easy in the sessions. So this training in cross-cultural coaching is going to really helps us to trust ourselves much more, and also to trust our client much more and being able to help them in a better way. Another competence, fourth, which for me is the most important of the whole set of core competencies, because if there is no presence, there can't be anything else in the session. Okay, presence means being able, first of all, to be here and now and not get distracted, and of course, as I said before, not get distracted by my inner conversation. Okay, so again, the more used I am to different ways of thinking, to different languages, to the difference of people and also countries, the more present I would be able to be, because I'm not going to get into discussion or argument with myself if this is right or if it's not, or this is strange, or why do they say that, or why do they think that way. So all this inner chattering is going to keep us away from a really good presence. But also presence is related with flexibility, which means that when we are present, we just flow. We just go near to the client, we accompany them, we go with them, and we dance. And so it's like the session is really easy, is really fluent, and it feels like like flying. So again, the only way to get that sensation is a way of is try not to get as coaches in our own way. Try not to get to think too much. Try not to get to find the reason why people is saying or is doing something. Okay, so it's also really important to be able to just not get in our way and be in that situation of flexibility. Okay, and here curiosity is the main secret. So if I keep curious, and if I keep in a situation like, okay, this session is not going to be to solve a problem, it's not going to be because I need to fix something, but it's going to be a learning process. I'm going to learn from the client, and the client is going to learn from him or herself. So if we think as a learning process, not as something that has to be achieved in the end of the session, we are going to be able to flow much more and to be much more present. Okay, so the idea here is, okay, yes, learning, not solutions. Then active listening. And active listening in the ICF is very related also, of course, and is related to presence, because if I am not present, I won't be able to get all the information. But then active listening is also being able to, mirror back the same words and also the same meaning that our clients are saying, which means that, as I explained before, if I'm used to use a word in a different way or in a certain way, I have to forget about that. And I have to use that word in the really meaning of this conversation, this culture, and this language. Okay, so it means that active listening is related to, okay, I'm hearing that, I'm listening that, and I'm going to mirror it back or just ask a question that is going to have the same words. Because it's very usual that when we're coaching in a different language, if we coach, if I speak Spanish and I coach in English, it's very usual to, translate and try to say things in your own way. And what happens when I say things in my own way is that we transform slightly the meaning of these words or of this sentence, of this conversation. So it's important that we get used to use the same words and the same meaning. And if we don't get the meaning, that could be also something that happens usually in cross-cultural coaching. If we don't understand the meaning, then ask, what does mean to you? Or what's the meaning for you or in your country or in your language of this word? So we don't have to be ashamed, or we don't have to be afraid of asking things that we don't understand. It's better, because sometimes asking the meaning of something, it also helps the client to, gain an insight and to see things in a different way. Okay. And then we also finally have direct communication. And direct communication has two different meanings for ICF. The first meaning is like, okay, you have to have like a kind of direct and honest communication. So being able to share things that you may feel or may see, through a good feedback. But also means having a good use of your language, which means I have to be able to express myself in a clear and good way with my clients. This is difficult if we don't speak fluently in language. If we intend to do cross-cultural coaching and we don't have like fluent use of English, that can be difficult, because then our direct communication is going to impact our session. That means that our client maybe won't be able to understand what we say, or maybe they will understand it but in a different way. So here the first thing is, of course, we have to practice English. For instance, if we want to coaches from English-speaking country, England, North America, or even other countries that they speak other languages, but that people they do speak English. So first of all, practice is really important. I think I was talking with Dimitri the other day that how do you do that? So I just try to keep improving my English every day, just by watching movies, in an original version. Just keep having conversations with friends that they are from the United States or from England. So it's a way that you keep refreshing and you keep improving your English. And this is also going to impact in a positive way your direct communication with the client, because you're going to be able to ask better questions in a better way. You're going to be able to resume, and you're going to be able to mirror back things in the same way. You're going to be able to ask questions with smart words that they're going to make a real good effect in the client. So it's also important that we keep improving, and also we keep learning different languages, because as I said, the more you get used to different ways of speaking, learning, the let's say freer, flexible, and more connected is going to get your brain. So just to finish with this talk and also to just have more questions and a little bit more of your questions. Yes, the main idea is, and I also want to thank you, Dimitri, for this initiative and this experience. Cross-cultural coaching, it's a present. So if you don't have the opportunity to do it, just create the opportunity to do it. Just find people from other places, from other countries, from different languages, especially English, that you can find it, because it's going to make you a better coach. It's going to improve your coaching effectivity. And it's also going to help you to become a better person, because you will become more tolerant, you will become more open-minded, and you will become also more rich in your interior. So please, just do it. Just keep coaching with people from other places, other countries, because it's going to be a real present for you and for your coaching. Okay, Maria. So I don't know if
we have questions. Thank you so much for your presentation. The question from Svetlana: with clients from which countries do you like to work the most of all?
Yeah, especially North America. Yeah, because and this sounds maybe kind of lazy, but it's so easy to coach them. It's like, okay, so we know that, the main idea from coaching came from, Timothy Galway, and that was in the States. So it's like, okay, coaching is made for North American, because it's easy. I mean, it's so easy that sessions are so, they flow in such an easy way, and they also, like to go bigger and farther. So yeah, for me, my best clients in that way, I really like North American clients.
Thank you so much. And the question from Nikolai: do you use movies, songs, or literature of other cultures to understand it deeper?
Yeah, sure. And that's what I said before. I really like, of course, one of my hobbies, and well, it's not a hobby because it's something that is related to my profession, but I love reading. I mean, for me, it's like a daily basis activity. And especially, I usually like to read books, of course, in English, but also books from other countries, from other ideas. So you get used to different ways of thinking, different maps, different structures, and also, watching movies in the original version. And it's really, really important, because you also get used to the accent, to the way they express themselves. So yes, definitely, it's a great, way of learning, of course, improving your language, but also, learning to open your mind.
Okay. And Svetlana asked, Gorka, people from which countries are the least talking customers?
The least talking customers. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, okay. Germany. Yeah, German, it's really that for me, and this is, I don't want to generalize or just set kind of, tag, but for me, German clients or German coaches are the most difficult, because it's like you have to be all the time pulling out information. They are really concrete. They only, say yes, no. Even if you ask open questions, like they just find a word to answer, and it's really, really difficult. So for me, German-speaking, clients are the ones that they speak less. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. When and how did you start attracting clients from coaching from different countries? Lilia asked.
Well, actually, in the very beginning, when I began when I began to work with my practice sessions in the beginning, since I had contact with people, from Israel and from other places that I met there, so I already offered them, sessions, free sessions, so I could practice and I could improve. So it was in the very beginning. It was something that for me was not difficult. and maybe think that that made the difference. So I will invite you to do it as soon as possible. Don't wait to be, really good at coaching, or to, have like 1,000 hours, or no, just the sooner you do it, the sooner you will see the results and improvements. So for me, it was the very beginning.
Okay. The question from Evgenia: do you have Indian clients? What difference have you noticed in their mentality, if you have, and in general about Eastern people?
Okay. No, I had once Indian clients in a cross-cultural team. It was a project team, and they also worked online. So there was a clients here. I mean, the part of the team was here in Barcelona, in Spain, and part of the team was in India. Yeah, the main problem with Indian clients is that they are too polite. Okay. There is like a cultural difficulty in being assertive, which means that saying no, okay, if I don't want to do that, or if I understand, they don't say it. They just nod, okay, yeah. But then, the answer is no, but they don't dare to, because they want to be too polite. So this is the main problem with, it's not a problem, but the main difficulty with Indian client is that need to be too kind, too polite, and to show themselves in a really good way. So then this ends up in a difficulty of communication, because you don't get the real answer of things.
Thank you so much. And the question from Tamara. Gorka, thank you very much for sharing your valuable experience with us. What was one biggest challenge for you personally when you started cross-culture coaching?
Well, again, I didn't have like a big challenge, because it was kind of natural for me. I have always had kind of easiness with languages, because I'm not from Catalonia. I was born in the Basque Country. So there we had to learn a different language, which is Basque. Now I nearly forgot it, because I haven't been using it for a long time. But, in school, in high school, and also in the preparatory for the university, we had to learn Basque. And I also learned Greek and Latin. So it's like my mind is always been related to languages and to learning languages. So for me, language was not a big, let's say, a big problem or big challenge. Maybe the biggest, and it was not so big, but maybe the biggest was being able to receive feedback and, ways of talking, for instance, with Israelis. That was a big challenge, because it's not easy. I mean, they're lovely, and it's a country, it's a people that they are really, they have a great heart, and they will help you as much as they can. But as I said, they are really tough. And that for me was a challenge, because I was used to be nice and to behave in a good way. And when someone talked to me in a direct or rough way, for me it was like an attack. And I had to learn not to take that as a personal attack, and just take it, okay, this is the way they think, this is the way they behave, and this is their way. And they do it with everyone. So it's not with me. They talk between them in the same way. They're waiting in the line in the supermarket, and they're shouting one to each other. So don't take it personally. It's not a problem. Don't worry, relax, and that's it. So maybe that was the main problem, being able not to feel offended or bad, the way some people spoke.
And we have one very practical question, and a lot of us want to hear the answer to this question. What may be the solution to let a client know that you don't understand him well due to the languages? I have such problem with Americans, native speakers.
Okay, yeah. This is something that, is like the nightmare for a coach, that you don't understand, or you cannot understand, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't understand half of the sentence. Oh, now what do I ask? So first of all, here, don't be afraid to ask again and to say, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't get half of what you said. Could you repeat it again, or could you say it in a different way? So as coaches, don't be afraid to ask that. Don't be afraid to show that you didn't get the meaning or you didn't get the word. It's okay. It's okay that we don't do it. It happens also sometimes in Spanish that people, they speak in a kind of weird way and you have to say, okay, now tell me, what did you say, because I didn't get it. So first of all, the main thing is, okay, just, don't think that you have to be right all the time, that you have to do great coaching. If you don't understand, it's okay. You have the right. It's no problem. You're learning. Ask again. Ask for different. So say it in a different way, or can you, use an easier language? But don't be afraid. They will understand it. So this is the main thing.
And we also have a question. What additional benefits can get the coach working with mentors from different countries?
With mentors?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yeah, for me, one of the, and I said it before really, in a very brief way, but for me, the more you get to work with different countries and with different people, the richer you get as a person. It's like you improve your way of seeing things. You also become, as I say, a more tolerant person. So it helps you to enrich your life. It helps you to, feel also happier, because when I travel, when I have the opportunity to travel to work in other countries, even with students and with clients, it's like I come back to my country with, a richer mind. I have the opportunity to experience, different experiences, and see the way they eat, the way they enjoy their spare time. It's like it's an enrichment. So especially you're going to become a better person, really. I mean, it's something that it's going to happen, yes, if you are willing to learn. See, I think the key word here is being open to learning.
To be honest, Gorka, we have so many questions to you, but we have just 2 minutes. So I will ask you the last one about yourself. When you are coachee in a coach session, what language you prefer to be coached?
Oh, good. That's a good question. So, Spanish or English?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for instance, Catalan. I've been speaking Catalan for, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 years. But I still find difficult to, to get used or to be comfortable or fluent with the mindset of the Catalans. So even if I can speak it well, I mean, no problem at all, no mistakes, but when I'm coaching Catalan, for me it's kind of difficult because I have to, being translated. So yeah, for me the best one is Spanish, and then English would be the second one.
Thank you so much. And there are so many thanks for you in the chat, for your formulation, if you don't understand client speech, for a very motivating speech of yours, and especially for your words that you don't need to think too much, for your advice about that. We have really a lot of questions to you, so we will send it to you, or just you can answer there a little bit later, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. It'll be a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was really a great presentation with many interesting ideas. I also wrote down a lot, the whole page. So thanks a lot, and we will send you all the messages.
Okay, thank you very much, Maria, and thank you also for helping with the questions, and thank you, Dimitri, again for the initiative. I think it's very important for all of us, and it's going to help to improve the coaching community. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.